This is the ABQ Business Podcast with your host, Jason Rigby. Each week we'll interview visionary business leaders to inspire the creative power and spirit that's in every entrepreneur. Discussing strengths, weaknesses, strategies, systems, and the problems we can all solve together for a new future for local small business.
Hey guys, I am sitting in a doctor's office and I'm fairly
Nurse
comfortable.
Practitioner.
Yeah. Well, it's Wildlife ABQ. Right. So this is what it looks like. There's that kind of made me nervous. We were talking about it earlier. I don't know if you could see the silver tray back there. Then there are stirrups. So I'm getting a little nervous. But we did the whole thing on Dutch test. And so can you, before we go over my results, because we're going to do this online, on air, live, I'm going to ask some very intimate questions concerning me. So can you explain the Dutch test real quick in like a few minutes and then we'll get into it?
Yeah, sure. So the Dutch test is a urine test that tests for hormones, but Dutch doesn't stand for Holland or anything like that. It's dried urine testing comprehensive hormone, and it's by a lab called Precision Analytical. And there's different ways to measure hormones. Most people are probably familiar with the blood test. They want to get their testosterone level checked, and that's all they know. People who are a little more into hormones probably know about saliva testing. And then this is yet another way to test hormones. And there's pros and cons of all the different types of tests. And so this is one of them.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys can see this or not. This is mine, so I can show it out. But you can see it. It's pretty. I mean, it's pretty thick. How many pages is in here?
I think the test itself is about 6 pages, and then there's just tons of narrative explanation.
Yeah, there's 18 pages
of each
total. So that's crazy. So right off the bat, I'll let you, because you normally do this all the time.
Yeah.
So we'll just start right off the bat. And then can I stop you and ask a question?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Hopefully I can answer it. So just to kind of orient you to the test first is to look at what is called the steroid pathways. And this is universal across everyone. We all have the same steroid pathways. And you can see on here we have progesterone, some things you may be familiar with, DHEAS, testosterone, and then down here we have estrogen, and then cortisol and cortisone. And so I don't know if you're going to be able to screenshot or what they're going to be able to see, but it's a very complex pathway. And I like to use the analogy with patients that when you turn one dial, all the other dials shift.
Oh, okay. So if I turn one of these in this, it almost looks like a pyramid with these little pathways.
Yeah, if you picture a machine with all the cogs like
that makes sense.
Everything's going to move.
It's like this board that we're using. You start moving levers and turning knobs, and then it creates a different outcome. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's just to get an idea, and I'll be coming back to this part. The other thing about this test that makes it a lot different than what you would typically see in a lab is that it's looking at dials. So we have our lower normal, our higher normal, and then we have like a speed gauge or a gas gauge, and it shows your actual number to the test and where you fall within the range. Compared to a typical lab where you're just going to see lines, names, numbers, and then the range over here. And you don't get a sense of where you fall in the range unless you specifically look at that line and really analyze it. And so this test just gives us some more visual ability to look at things and work with that. So as you can see here, it says low limit, high limit, patient result. The other thing it does when we get to the adrenal page is it looks to see how your cortisol and cortisone pattern do throughout the day.
Oh, okay. So that's why it had me I had to pee on 5 or 6 different things.
It's 4. And then if you happen to wake up at night, you can do a 5th one at night, but all they do with that is just to put it with the waking one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I didn't have to get up on purpose at 4 in the morning.
No,
I did that anyways. Yeah. I'm 47. That's what wakes me up in the morning.
No, according to this test, you don't have trouble with your prostate, but we'll get to that in a second.
Good. Yay.
So the first page is just a summary, and usually I don't typically go over it a whole lot, but your estrogen is high normal, and this is a range for a male. They know you're a male. And then your testosterone is a little on the low normal side. It's definitely normal, but low normal. And optimally speaking, you would want...
So crying myself to sleep at night is...
Right.
That's what this is telling me.
This is crying. So normally what you'd want with some hormones, not all of them, is you want to be high normal. That's what we would consider optimal.
So how would I fix my test? Because that's important, I think, for males, especially, I'm 47. So how would I fix that?
So testosterone's a tough one. I have some men that are in their 30s that are already low testosterone, and then it just gets worse from 40s to 50s. But exercise is the number one, especially HIIT exercises as the number one, and muscle mass is another way
Right.
to keep your testosterone.
So I do that a ton.
Yeah. And so, you're 47, so
Right.
it might just be declining a bit. And then another thing to look at, and we'll get on to another page, is what happens to your testosterone. That's what makes this Dutch test really stand out, is because I'm not just looking at your testosterone level.
Right.
I'm looking to see what happens to your testosterone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So this next section here is your adrenal hormones, but we'll get into it on another page because it gets in way more depth. And so we just skip these other labs that are just listed out because we have the graphic.
Oh, okay. And you can read this.
Yes.
Yeah, this is like,
I've read this
this is why you've gone
times.
to 20 years of school.
It feels like it sometimes. So the first thing I look at is your DHEA sulfated. And so this gives us a clue as to how well you sulfate. And so we flip to page 5 and we look to see how well are your adrenal glands producing DHEA. And that's one of their functions. Your adrenal glands produce cortisol, and then inactivated cortisol is cortisone, and then they also produce DHEA. So what I want to look for is, are you producing enough DHEA, and is your body sulfating it properly? And you're about equal. Your two arrows are about pointing in the same direction. So you sulfate fairly well. People that have a lot of health problems, they basically have trouble detoxifying their life and living in modern society, and they have a lot of trouble with everything. They have to eat organic, they can't use any chemicals, or they just fall apart. They tend to have sulfation problems. They also tend to have methylation problems, and I'll point that out in a second. So this test isn't just like sex hormones, it's adrenals, and there's all these other clues as well in here. So like I said on the first page, your testosterone it's fine, but it's low normal. So you're 52 in the high range for a urine male is 115. So you're low normal. So the first thing we want to look at is, are you aromatizing your testosterone? And this isn't some sort of like arrow superhighway. This is what he's doing with his testosterone. It's a little more of an art than a science, but you're a pretty clear case that you are an aromatizer. So your testosterone is a little on the low normal side, but you have really high estrogen, and you don't have ovaries. So it's not your ovaries making estrogen. At least I don't think you have ovaries. Do you have a twin?
No, not that I know of. I have to call my mom.
And so you're possibly, that is why your testosterone's a bit on the low side, is that you aromatize too much. And if I remember right, you're already taking something for this, or you were.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I just took a few, but then there was nothing like this. So they were just like, oh, here, take this. And it was really cheesy. So I was like, no, I don't want to mess with them anymore.
You never took it? Or
Well, no, I did take it, but I only took it for like 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And then, once I met you and Well Life ABQ, I was like, well, I'll just do things through here because this is way more prominent than just some random thing that's looking at.
All they looked at before.
All they're looking at is this chart here.
Right.
And then, oh, do you just need this?
Right.
So
starting off this test, the two things we've looked at so far, the three things, DHEAS, testosterone, estradiol, E2, are things that we can measure on a blood test as well. So we can always confirm these. And blood tests still remain the gold standard for hormone levels, but there's not blood tests for the rest of this test for the most part. And so there are three types of estrogen. There's E1, estrone, E2, estradiol, and E3, estriol. E1 is basically probably the most detrimental of the three types of estrogens. E2 is the balanced one. It's the porridge is not too hot, not too cold. It's the one that helps us with hot flashes as when women enter menopause. And then E3 is very protective. It's so protective that you can actually still give it to women that have cancer, that have hormone-fed cancers like breast cancer, ovarian cancer. It's actually protective. And one of the reasons you can see that it's safe is that the arrow turning E3 to E2 actually goes only one way. You can't, if I gave somebody E3, their body cannot turn it into E2 and then therefore turn it into E1, which is what causes the problems.
So my E2 is too high.
Your E2 is too high. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how would I correct that?
So we would want to block some aromatization. So we have one pathway where we want to block some aromatization.
Am I taking you off your path here? We can answer
fine.
that question later.
You're fine. So I pointed the steroid pathway out earlier.
Right.
And so there's a method to the madness. And so we have testosterone, and we have this big line here. It says aromatase. And then we have boxes. We have a negative box and we have a positive box. So when we want to push back on aromatization, we look in this box to see what can we do. So we have chrysin, flavonoids, which basically is like a colorful food plate, mushrooms, grapeseed extract, red wine, yay. And then I think you were on anastrozole. So aromatase inhibitors. That's what anastrozole is. And then metformin is actually another aromatase inhibitor. So that's one way we can push back on your testosterone we're basically pushing back so that you're not making so much estrogen. The other way we handle it is by encouraging the metabolites of estrogen of E1. So the E2 can turn over here to E1, and then it comes down 3 pathways. And we have the green pathway, which green is good.
Right.
We have red pathway, which is no. And then we have the blue pathway, which is okay. And so with the red pathway, we don't want your 4-hydroxy to be more than about 10%. And they say up to 11%. I think it used to say 10%. And that's how I learned is you don't want that to be more than 10%. You're 10.4. So you're kind of right on the line. And then, so that's the main thing we look at in this pie chart is what percentage do we have? And so one way we would promote getting rid of the estrogens you do have is for you to take something called DIM, D-I-M.
Right.
And again, flipping back to the pathway method to my madness, right? So we know we want to get E1, we want to send it down the green pathway. And so we're looking for our plus box, cruciferous veggies, DIM, IC3, which stands for indole-3-carbinol, caffeine, soy, which people with estrogen you really wouldn't want them to take soy, so I don't usually recommend that. Rosemary extract and flaxseed, and then thyroxine, which we would deal with if there was.
And DIM is a like you can buy it.
So it's a
counter.
supplement.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a supplement. It's actually, it's also something that is in cruciferous veggies. So that's why they encourage lots of broccoli and cauliflower, but you'd have to eat like 10 pounds of broccoli to get it, get that, the amount of DIM that you would want if you have this situation of imbalance. But none of yours are really off the charts, honestly. You're doing okay.
So if I took a little bit of DIM and then
a little bit of DIM and you took your anastrozole or metformin,
right, then I would be fine on this chart.
Yeah, so the advantage of metformin, it's one of the kind of the 10 drugs on my short list that it's, even in functional medicine, even in natural medicine, they tend to prescribe it because it actually improves insulin sensitivity. And so the mechanism of action of that particular drug is actually getting to the core of the problem. It's not just a symptom coverer. It's actually helping. And so metformin actually does make it on the list. And so metformin was one of the aromatase inhibitors, so that would be something.
So if on my mom and dad's side both had major diabetes, especially on my dad's side, but they were all obese. Mm-hmm. So is the diabetes, is that a correlation with any of the insulin thing that you're talking about?
So I don't have any labs on you, but I would like to see your insulin level, and it's called a HOMA-IR. So it's a homeostasis, something insulin resistance. And basically I'm looking at your glucose compared to your insulin at a moment in time. When the needle goes into the vein, I want to see what your glucose is compared to how hard is your pancreas working to maintain a certain glucose level. And that's a much earlier marker of blood sugar problems than hemoglobin A1C.
So none of this has anything to do with the blood sugar?
No, but...
okay. I'm taking you off the path.
You are kind of a little bit, but that's okay. So, but I know
we're on set, blue, red, green lines.
I know that you have to work out really hard and really watch what you eat just to maintain your weight. So I'd really want to know what your insulin resistance is, because that could be a key component to helping you lose weight, especially central weight gain.
Yeah, and that's where I have.
Are really challenged with that. So that would be like another piece. This would be a follow-up piece. And we get patients. So Well Life is set up to be a membership program where you sign up with us and we take care of your health and whatever that entails, whatever is needed to do that, we work with it. We get a lot of Dutch tests, people that will order the test online and then they don't know what to do with the results. So they'll call us for like a one-off type of follow-up, and I won't do that because medicine is not one-stop shopping.
Right.
So you can't come in here and I go over this and I give you this big treatment plan, but what happens in a month from now when it's not working, or we need to tweak this or tweak that or see how this works and then check on you?
What does the average person do these every 6 months, every year?
No, most people just do it once.
They just do the hormone?
I have people occasionally do a follow-up, but most people, when they do this, they don't feel well. And so we tweak some of those knobs and they feel better. So they don't need to do the test. Like, yeah, of course it'd be great to look at it again and see all these markers, but if you feel better, you don't really need to do it. So.
Okay, cool. So after we go over all this, then I'll share some of the things that I'm feeling, and then we'll see if we can correlate it with this.
Okay.
Some things that I don't feel well on.
Okay.
We could use that.
The other thing I look at with your testosterone, and this is really important if you're doing any sort of testosterone replacement, is what do you do with your testosterone. So we're looking at aromatization, and then we're looking to see if you prefer one of two pathways, the 5-bravo pathway or the 5-alpha pathway. The 5-alpha pathway is so important that it actually gets a big box on this big steroid pathway. And so it's a 5-alpha reductase pathway. And this is what, when men prefer the 5-alpha, and as they age, they tend to lean over to the 5-alpha, or they may have already been there, but this is what causes men's prostate to enlarge. It's the 5-alpha. It's the,
So if you're taking this is for men out there. So if you're just taking a ton of testosterone, you could actually be feeding this 5-alpha,
yes.
and you could actually be screwing your prostate up.
Yes, you can. In fact, I have a patient right now that I'm trying to correct way too much testosterone replacement. And he ended up in the emergency room. He had to get a catheter because his prostate completely
Because I don't know how many
bladder.
of my friends have that, because that's a thing for, that's a thing for business leaders, men, especially my age.
We all want to be superhuman, but we need to do it balanced and carefully. And so we can still do testosterone replacement. We just need to know how you handle testosterone so that I can best support you. So this particular patient, of course, he was told like, oh, you need to go on this prostate drug called tamsulosin. I'm like, well, maybe we should look at what's causing your prostate to enlarge.
So he was taking tons of testosterone.
Tons of testosterone.
Probably peaked out 1,000, 1,200 or something.
I don't even know.
Yeah. And then, that's creating the problem.
Created the problem.
And then they're like, here, let's medicate you.
Yes. And meanwhile, too, his red blood cells were going up so high that they started telling him
this is why everybody needs
blood.
to do this.
And nobody ever once said, maybe you should cut back on your testosterone.
It's not a drive-through McDonald's, get your medicine.
Right.
This, like you said, this is why you have a monthly plan. So you could go over this, and this is a treatment that goes, not only with medication, but also supplements.
Right.
And we'll get into that too, hopefully.
Yeah, I had a patient today. It had nothing to do with this, but he came in, he told me what his symptoms were. I was like, well, let's try this and this, and then we'll check in 2 weeks and see how you're doing. And so there's no worry about co-pays and all that. It's just included. So
no, that's awesome.
So anyway, back to the subject. So you actually have a 5-bravo preference. So you would be somebody that I would feel really good about putting you on testosterone replacement if that's what you wanted to do. I think we could tweak some stuff and you'd feel better potentially here just by handling the estrogen. But I don't know. And we can do some aromatization work and then just look at your testosterone through blood. We wouldn't have to redo this whole test.
Right. Like kind of slowly.
They're not apples to apples, but we could see where you fall kind of in the range. You're low normal now, but would you be high normal later?
So if I fix this E2 estrogen, then and get that down, then my testosterone could go up. Theoretically, yeah, because we're tweaking this knob down. Yeah. That one goes up. Then I may not even need testosterone. But if I wanted to do testosterone,
if you were 37, I'd be pushing you a lot more towards doing other than testosterone replacement, because that's once you start, it's really hard to stop.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard horror stories with that. Yeah,
and you shut your own production down.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're a 5-bravo preference, so that's great. I skipped around. Usually I do that piece before I go into the estrogen.
No, I think this is really cool because, a lot of men, you need to get this tested first before you hop on.
I don't require this Dutch test for hormone replacement, but I really highly recommend it. And
why wouldn't you?
But
yeah.
Well, I don't know why you wouldn't.
It's not that expensive though. The test isn't that expensive.
It took me like 2 years to do this test on myself. It's my dirty little secret. And I
Were
was
you
actually
nervous?
No, I was. I've never had hormone problems. It's never really been an issue for me. And there was some hormone problems on the sheet. I was like, wow, I really need to support that.
No, I love it. I like the tweaking the knobs. That's my brain. So if I can go and then then I'm in.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
The second piece to estrogen metabolism. So we have phase 1, which we just talked about, and then now we have phase 2. And phase 2 is a methylation process. So here's another word that actually occurs all over the body. So anybody who's a low methylator, they tend to have problems with, again, detoxifying their environment. They just tend to have problems with stuff, and they can't activate their B vitamins. They're eating B vitamins or they're supplementing them, and their body's not very good at methylating.
Yeah, I take B vitamins.
They're not able to activate. And so they could be wasting a ton of money on inactive B vitamins that are fine for most of the population. They need to be taking activated. So you're a high methylator. Were you taking activated B vitamins at the time of this test?
Probably. Yeah, because I just buy the Costco the B12 or B6 or something. It's like a B complex. So was I not supposed to be taking it?
No, the Costco.
I did fast. Oh, the Costco brand?
You lost me at Costco.
Is the Kirkland Signature brand bad? I live at Costco.
Oh my gosh. No.
No.
So on the back, an activated B vitamin, so like B6 would say peroxidine.
Right.
Whereas an activated B6 would be peroxidine D. I can't remember what it says, but it's B5P. It's a really, really long word. And so that's how you know if your B vitamins are activated. They're very long on the back.
So I need to look at that.
Yeah, get back to us.
Yeah, get back.
But regardless, even if you were taking those B vitamins, I really don't think you'd be.
They were
a low
cheap
methylator.
Costco ones, so I'm fine, huh?
Yeah, you're fine.
They weren't doing anything
it's
anyways.
Fine. I think that's it for this page. Not in my flow like I normally am.
Well, I keep interrupting you. Sorry.
It's okay. So this next page is all about adrenals, and one of the first things they look at is the melatonin. Now, melatonin we think of it as being produced in our brain, but it's actually mostly produced in our gut. And when somebody is supplementing melatonin, they take it to sleep
Which I
at
do,
night.
yeah.
It through the roof. I mean, you're 2,603 in the high
So I need
high
to
limit.
stop.
No, not at all. There's no evidence
It makes
that this is unsafe at all.
It makes me sleep way better. And my Whoop even says so. It says because I have to record when I take melatonin how many milligrams I take. And which you had told me before because we brought this up, and you had said, cut the 5 milligrams down to 2.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I skip. But the 5 milligrams, I go to sleep and I sleep good. 2 milligrams is okay. 10 milligrams, I start having weird dreams.
Yeah, that's a lot of melatonin.
Yeah.
But no, this isn't unsafe. There's no evidence that having these high levels is unsafe. So you're fine if it works.
But
for
I
you,
sleep
take
better
it.
according to this. Yeah.
Absolutely take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But stick with the 2 milligrams.
I'd recommend sticking with the 2.
Yeah. Because didn't you say something like it can stop producing or something if you take it?
Over 3, it shuts down your normal production. It's been a while since I referenced that study, so don't.
So yeah,
quote me
that
exactly,
that would make me a little nervous. Yeah, that's anything that's going to shut down something makes me kind of nervous.
You want to augment, not
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
replace, if at all possible.
No, that makes sense.
So whole adrenal page here. So again, we talked about your DHEA, and then the other piece of what our adrenals do is it makes cortisol. And so we're looking for a couple of things, and this is where this test really becomes an art. Is first of all, we're looking to see if your adrenal glands are making cortisol. So when I did this test, I should have had my test too here, but I have probably a middle cortisol production, and you have kind of high. And I actually expected you to be through the roof, because you're so busy right now. You're working so hard. I expected this to just be off the charts. But you're okay.
Oh,
you're high
with
normal.
stress?
Yeah, stress.
Yeah, but I like
This
shows
apparently
me
you function very well.
I
under
do,
stress.
yes.
The test agrees with you. The other side to that, though, is that your body is putting on the brakes. So your adrenal glands are like, go, 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 but your body's like, well, hold on, buddy. And the way I can see that is that there's 2 ways. One is I'm looking at your free cortisol pattern. So even though you have really good production, you don't have a ton of free cortisol. See how you're kind of on the low and you're not flatlined. You have a little bit of a little peak there, but you're low normal all the way through the day.
So is this why I'm tired all the time?
Yeah, you wake up low. You get a little bit of a surge. And this is one of the arguments that people make against the Dutch test, is that they don't have the cortisol awakening response. So when we're sleeping, we wake up, our cortisol is at the lowest it's going to be. And then within 30 minutes, our adrenals...
After we look at our phone.
Right, or light. Light is also the other way. And it shoots up.
Our emails.
We're supposed to have an adrenal surge.
Right.
And we're supposed to have this big peak, and then it drops back down and then declines throughout the day. And so this does it a little bit differently. It's not quite that peak, but we're still looking for life in the adrenal glands. So your body is kind of keeping the free cortisol availability kind of low.
So is there a way to fix that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And the other thing your body's doing is taking the cortisol that you have, the cortisol, not the free cortisol, the cortisol that you have, and it's converting a lot of it into cortisone. And so cortisone is the inactive cortisol. So it's, I use the analogy of savings account. And so you have all this inactivated cortisol floating throughout. All your protein molecules are holding all this cortisone. Well, why is that sitting there? Well, if you suddenly, a lion jumps out at you in the hallway,
right,
and you have to run for your life, or you have to lift the car off somebody, all that cortisol is sitting there waiting to be released. And you're able to
do that.
Activate suddenly. But our chronic stressors
kill the
of
lion
life,
and
kill the lion,
pull the
run
car
over the
off.
lion, pull
Yeah.
the car off.
Yeah.
And so we need all this, but your body is definitely saying like, it'd be nice if you slowed down just a little.
Oh yeah. Well, I've also did a whole new workout routine when I was doing this. So, that could have, I was probably freaking out. I'm still sore.
So ways to get more cortisol. And so dealing with insulin resistance. So here we have another clue. So we have aromatization problem. We know that metformin can help that. So insulin resistance. And then over here, we have a little bit of like too much cortisone. And so working with insulin resistance, not being obese, dealing with inflammation if there is. So there would be another lab test I'd want to check. Again, not one-stop shopping, right? Checking your thyroid, which is probably fine. I think you've recently had labs at the VA, so I think your thyroid was fine. I don't know if you remember if they tested that or not. Licorice root is just kind of one supplement, direct way to get your body to stop converting so much into cortisone.
So licorice root, I can get that. Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah, so typically I'll just do a combo product of some sort that helps with this. And so,
but yeah, because I want people to understand that too. So you do this test, and then I don't have to sit here and write down a list of everything that I need. You have the ability to be able to gather all the supplements together that I need, and then send that to me, and then they just come monthly in the mail.
You can set it up where it's recurring, but you can't just order it as you go as well.
But I would go to the website, and it would be based off of this test.
So any test that we do, and we're saying we're making these recommendations, we will put together a list in a website called Full Script, and this is what we're recommending, because a lot of times people go to the store, they'll go to Sprouts, and they were not prepared that there's 5 different types of XYZ and all these different forms, and they don't know what to get. And so they get lost when they get to the store, and then they forget and they give up or they walk out. And then 2 months later, we're meeting again. I'm like, did you take that? And they're like, I forgot about that. And so that just really helps pull it all together. This is exactly what we want you to take. And you don't have to buy them.
Does it adjust the milligrams and everything?
What we want you to take. Yeah, we tell you what and how often.
Yeah.
And,
that's so awesome. You don't get this anywhere else.
Well, other clinics like mine, but
no, I doubt that.
It's not, I guess, AKA normal. So that was your adrenals. And then the test continues on, and they do some organic acids and neurotransmitter metabolites. And they didn't used to have these. They probably started doing these about 2 years ago. And so one of the funny things about B12 is a lot of your listeners have probably had their B12 measured. And if they're taking B12, their B12 was like off the charts, and their doctor probably told them, stop taking that, you don't need it. And yet they feel better on B12, and they don't know why. And what's a better way to measure it is something called methylmalonic acid, or in this, so MMA is the short.
Not mixed martial arts.
No, different type of. And so if this is high, it suggests that your B12 is low, but you're within range, so you're totally normal. However, on your B6 marker, similar concept, measuring the vitamin itself is not always the best way to measure deficiency. And so xanthorenic acid and kyurenate.
So I need vitamin B6?
Yeah, so when these are high, now you may not need B6, you might need activated B6. Because you're already taking B6 in your B complex.
Yeah, just
maybe
that B
it's
complex.
That you're not taking the right type.
So shitty Kirkland vitamins.
Possibly. Stop picking on Kirkland. They're going to write me a letter. The other thing we really want to look at is something called oxidative stress. And so this is this is called 8-hydroxy. And this marker is an actual marker of DNA damage. And so when this is high, and I had a test, I don't know if I have it in here, but I had a test years ago where mine was actually high. So I was kind of an oh crap moment. And so
you're damaging your DNA?
Mm-hmm. So actual oxidative stress was occurring that was damaging DNA in my body. So here. So if not detoxified, 4-hydroxy can bind to and damage DNA. So this is kind of where the hormone-fed kind of cancer stuff can brew, basically. And so you're within range. So you were great.
So my DNA is cool.
Your oxidative stress is cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know, for somebody who's high, I get really aggressive with we need to do antioxidants and crazy.
Right.
With you, you're totally fine. There's nothing. And then in addition to that, looking at your glutathione, which is the mother antioxidants, the master of all the antioxidants that you can take or have in your system, but you never hear about it because it's not something you can really take oral. And so you're really only going to see, in Sprouts and stuff, you're not going to really see glutathione. And if you do, it's going to be really expensive, and it's also very unstable, and it's really questionable if you're actually getting any glutathione by the time you swallow it.
Right.
And so pyroglutamate is the way we measure this, and you're within range. So,
okay, good.
But glutathione is the master antioxidant. It's so great for your skin. It makes you glow, and it makes you glow because it's like improving your health through a master antioxidant.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So if they were, so you would have them be on different antioxidants if these were high, and I just had one, and that was the vitamin B6 marker.
If this was high, and if the 8-hydroxy was high and the pyroglutamate was high, because it's that would tell us low glutathione, I'd be like, you need to take glutathione. If this was normal and this was a little high, I'd be like, let's just do some antioxidants, maybe do some more colorful foods. And then we can check these again. We can do an oxidative stress, just that piece.
Oh, okay.
Of the test, because that's really important. And then neurotransmitters, I think, if I recall in the past, that you do pretty well with like your mood and whatnot, generally speaking.
Yeah. I mean, that's like,
I think we all hide under the covers sometimes, but for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, I fight depression a little bit, but
these support that. And these are moments in time. So next month you could do these neurotransmitters again, and maybe you wouldn't be doing so well. But right now you looked really good. So your HVA and your VMA looked really good.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that's the test. You're part of the test. And then the test just goes on to describe itself more. So.
Cool. Perfect. So
how are you feeling, and what can we do for you?
So quick question. So just to recap, my cortisol levels are really I need to take licorice root, and you're going to send me a list of through that website or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you'll send that to me, and then I can see what supplements I need, and then from there I have to look at my estrogen level, and you can tell me what I need to do there.
So you can either take anastrozole, or
Right.
we can check your insulin.
What was the other one you said? It was another name.
Metformin?
Yeah. You said that is that one better than anastrozole?
Well, it would be like 2 stones it would be 1 stone for 2 things.
Oh, okay.
But I want to check your insulin first.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't give you metformin unless there was a problem with your insulin.
Oh, okay. So it's 2 different things. Those
you wouldn't need to take both anastrozole and metformin.
Right.
But if you also have insulin resistance, then I would choose metformin over anastrozole.
Oh, okay. Now I get it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So that's one or either or, depending on we're dialing the lever, going down this other path. Yeah.
We're complex human beings. You don't just do one thing and it fixes everything's not ABC. Some things are A plus B equals Y. And
so, I kind of want to get into this a little bit. If you own a business and you want to be able to have your employees be a part of Well Life ABQ, and they could come in here and do this. I mean, they would have to pay for this, your employees, but
it's additional. But
but I mean,
this is how they would
this
access
is
it.
This is nothing special. Spending 30, 45 minutes with me. This is what you do with every patient.
Right.
And then you set them up. So not only can you get this done, as a CEO, founder, whatever, you can also have your employees get this done too. And they can be a part of Well Life ABQ, and it's extremely unique. I mean, already you can tell it's unique. What is the difference between going to a regular clinic than going to Well Life ABQ? And also, because we've gotten into several of them with cost, but I kind of want to get into a little bit of the difference. Why should they even look at Well Life ABQ compared to what they've just been doing for years?
So we cater to businesses to provide a high quality healthcare benefit. And it's trying to get away from this concept that health insurance is the only healthcare benefit. We also try to stay away from the word wellness program, because those have been proven that they don't work. Where you have somebody come in at lunchtime and talk about don't eat too much salt. Like, the only employees that go to those are ones that already don't eat too much salt. So it doesn't usually affect change a whole lot. But what we're offering is a real actual benefit, an actual office with real nurse practitioners for your employees to access healthcare when they need it.
So they could have this and have some emergency if they need to go to the hospital or something, and they're going to get bomb, super awesome care here.
Right.
That's going to be specialized like this. I just did a podcast with the CEO this morning, and he has unlimited PTO. So, there's all these new things. Netflix has you make your own hours. I mean, all these new companies are doing these new things for the betterment of the employee.
Yes.
And this is something, it may be an additional cost, but in the long run, you're going to have, when an employee, and you see this all the time, an employee comes here and they're shocked at the care that they get.
Right. Yes, it's a total game changer. And so there's two different types of employers that would benefit from us. One is the small employer where they don't have any health insurance. They simply can't afford it. It's way out of range. This is only $75 a month, so they can get their employees.
So they have 4 employees.
Yeah, right.
They 4 times 75.
And every time they go to hire, and I struggle with this too, I'm a small business as well. They go to hire and it's hard to offer benefits. And so then they choose a different job. And so
that's a game changer.
This can level the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
The other company that can really benefit is the larger companies. They tend to be 50 or more employees where they're self-funded. Sometimes they call it level funded or partially self-funded, where they're paying out of pocket for all their insurance claims and everything gets really inflated. And so what we do is bypass all those claims. We take all this over here, move it over here, and you directly pay for labs and you directly pay for x-rays and stuff, and it doesn't go through the claims process. And therefore, you as the company save a lot of money.
And you could show them how they can save money.
Yeah, that gets pretty complex. But
yeah, I can imagine.
I can really dial it down and get to the nuts and bolts.
Because I think but I mean, I just like the idea of taking your employees and them getting the best healthcare that they can every day. I mean, if your employees did this and they came back, I mean, of course they're going to pay for it or whatever, but, or, even your management staff, have you seen that where companies just have the management staff and then
they'll just do an executive of executive benefits. Type
exactly.
Of thing. That's an option as well. Whatever the company wants to do.
And then once they see how it is, then they can go from there and then include everyone.
Yeah, and we get all types of employees. We have some that are they just want a pill for the ill. They don't want to talk about all this. They just you're giving me too much. And so we meet people where they're at. And so, but if we have the super healthy person that's really wanting to optimize their health, we have a lot of tools for that as well.
Yeah, that's what's really impressed me with all of this. I mean, just this alone. No, this is totally different. Yeah. And this is one test that I've done and you've talked about 2 others. So I'm really excited to go on, and everything that we do, we're going to document just like this. So we can just, show it out there and then go from there. I think it's awesome.
Thanks.
So you're already writing stuff down. I don't like black licorice though.
Well, you don't have to take it.
Costco has those big tubs.
Oh my gosh. Oh. No, not the sugared black licorice.
There's insulin problems. Well, cool. So, and then how can they get a hold of you? How can they find out more information about this? Maybe if they just want to do this as an individual and be a part of the membership, or if they want you to come to them and speak to them about their company.
So individuals and companies, they can just go to our website, wellifeabq.com, and we have a tab for individuals and we have a tab for employees or employers. And so employers just schedule a one-on-one and we'll talk about what your business needs are and how we can help. And there's a small group of employers that we are not the best fit for, but we have to talk about it for.
Yeah, exactly.
Always know. So depends on your goals.
But majority, 90%.
Yeah.
Then it's good to go for majority of everyone, no matter if you have 2 employees or you have 200.
Right.
Yeah, you're good to go. Yeah. So perfect. Well, awesome. Well, we are live too. So I'm going to get in the stirrups here and then I'm teasing. And we'll go from there. Well, thanks, Casey. I appreciate you doing this.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us on the Albuquerque Business Podcast. And thanks to our sponsor, RigbyDigital.com. Make sure to subscribe and share. And go to abqpodcast.com. Get show notes, resources, and links to everything we talked about today to help you navigate your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner.